Hello, friends. Welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast, where East meets West. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Motley, and we have Mike Feldstein here from Jasper. And Jasper is an amazing air quality, air purification system device that I started using, and the reviews are amazing. We're going to talk about clean air, what it really means to your health. We're going to go through some of the aspects of maybe remediation and why it's so important for your overall health. Thank you, Mike, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. This will be good.
This is going to be great. We already had, I could tell you have your wit and sense of humor. I'm not kidding, everyone. When he came on, you can tell when it's going to be a good combo. So we want to make sure that we know about you. So when we first start out, I just want to know a little bit about your background. And can you give us a synopsis and let us know why you love Jasper, why you started it, and we really want to know about you.
Yeah, and I'm here on behalf of air more than on behalf of Jasper. Most of the stuff, it's all about air. Like a big part of my mission is, especially being in this health and wellness space, the amount of time that people are putting the emphasis on supplements and really sophisticated routines and habits and stuff before dialing in food, water, air. And I feel like air is just underserved. So how did I get here? Why am I paying attention to air and trying to raise air awareness? Well, my background was in flood, fire, and hurricane cleanup. So huge mold infestations, hotels, apartments, all of the above. So we weren't like your general contractor remediation guy for a kitchen or a bathroom leak. We were going to hurricanes and homes where there was the home is filled with water and just like citywide catastrophe.
Oh, man.
And in that, I got to see how sick people were. Two big things happened. Number one, I saw how sick people were getting after floods and fires, even months after, and how poor the air quality was. And how much I was watching contractors go to do remediation work get sick by living in these citywide toxic environments. So that's when the air awareness was kicking on. I was befriending doctors and pulmonologists and pediatricians. You don't hear this on the news, but after a situation like a flood or a fire, doctors like pediatricians are like 20 times busier than normal. That as the air gets polluted, everything it just exasperates your immune system and everything gets kicked into overdrive.
Wow. And when you had these when you had these natural disasters, you're seeing this effect. When they are going to the doctor, is the air quality causing old signs and symptoms of other things coming up, or is it normally just like that there are patients coming in with like severe bronchitis, allergies, airborne type?
So it's kind of everything. Because of the toxin burden, everything gets brought up. So if somebody is normally having one asthma attack a week, now they're having 4.
Yeah.
If somebody had some autoimmune stuff, whether it's, some eczema and some psoriasis and things like that, they're going to be flared up. If, like just everything comes to the surface. People with itchy eyes and dry eyes and dry skin, like just all the symptoms kind of get worse when you're just breathing all that in. And when we would remediate homes after significant mold events, we would use machines called air scrubbers. So it's essentially like a badass air purifier. And that's how you remediate mold. You isolate the room, you remove the mold, you use a HEPA vacuum, and you set up air scrubbers. That's how you clean the air in the space. And when I started contrasting that to what you would normally see as an air purifier at Best Buy, Walmart, Home Depot, Amazon, etc., an air purifier was kind of like a gimmicky little air scrubber. Tiny fan, tiny motor, tiny filter, good for a little bit of a dusty closet, but not designed to really clean the air. So here I am, using heavy duty restoration equipment and comparing that to what I'm seeing at people buying in their homes. And then I'm looking at the messaging that companies are putting on the boxes of like, this covers 1,500 square feet and 99.97. I'm like, these are sometimes higher specs than our air scrubbers that are 100-pound machines. Yeah. So I just saw the lie in how big companies were messaging this stuff. And I saw how effective the industrial machines we were using. I literally brought air scrubbers home after a wildfire. People would we put them in my basement. People would walk in my home and be like, whoa, like the air was just amazing, but they were loud and they were ugly. So you couldn't put them in your bedroom. You couldn't put them in your living room. So the vision for Jasper was, how do we create the world's first air scrubber an industrial grade machine with the aesthetic and the design and the quiet that you would be proud to put in your home. And that's just basically how I went down this path.
And I want to talk about how you created where it's very low output of noise. It's that strong of an air scrubber. What are some of the things, okay, that the general public want to know about, that people need to know about air quality? Literally, like there's people out there that don't know anything, Mike. And so, the air quality as in relation to their health?
Yeah, so there's the two big factors. You want fresh air and you want clean air. Those are the two back factors. And Jasper cannot help you with the fresh air part. If you think about water for a minute, when there's a flowing river or a stream, water in motion is generally quite clean. It's quite clear. When you have stagnant water, that's when you get algae. That's when you get contamination. That's when you get bacteria building up. When the water is moving, it's fine. But when it's stagnant, we got problems. What's happened with our modern homes since the energy crisis in the 1970s, they started changing the building code. So we started building these very, very tight homes. So instead of our homes being free-flowing rivers, our homes are ponds. The air is trapped. It's stale. It's stuck. So it's not that there is an air problem per se. It's a way that we're building our homes that is trapping air inside. So the average home that we test has much more pollen in it than even outside. So there's cedar fever. You're staying inside. Little do you know, your carpets and your blankets and your sheets and your clothes has more pollen in it than the outdoors because it comes inside and it gets trapped. So outside, we have this great thing called the sun, which is like the most amazing UV light of all time. We got the wind. We got the rain. We have trees. We have oceans. That's nature's filter. But in our homes, we've built them so tight. We've taken the nature out of the home. We've removed ourselves from nature. And we filled it with all of this toxic stuff, from our furniture filled with fire retardants, our paints, our adhesives, the bondings, the joints, the way everything is brought together. We cook indoors. We have pets inside. We use chemicals. So when you remove nature, you put your home in a little tight Tupperware box and you fill it with a bunch of chemicals. Then you spend 99% of your time in there. No wonder we're getting sick.
That's true. I mean, I love the analogy you just said about clear water moving, and then you have stagnant pond water. And when you get to a point where we're cooking indoors and you're doing everything indoors, you're talking about pollen coming in and getting on the clothes. Because the beautiful thing about Jasper is, like, you'll even talk about, mold or fungus. But I want to also know this, like, when the contaminants get in the air and you have all these people in a confined space, does any type of air waste product come from humans, like, and accumulate as well? Maybe that sounds a little morbid, because I'm thinking like in confined spots.
Well, yeah, carbon dioxide. Ooh. So that's not something that Jasper is going to deal with. That comes back to the fresh air component. So if you stop filling your pool with water and it just evaporates, it's going to get quite empty and it's going to get nasty. You need a fresh water. You need new water coming in, and you need to filter that water. If you have a fish tank, you got to add some water to the fish tank, and you got to filter the water. If you think about swimming pools, you don't go into the pool and use a sponge and clean the perimeter of the pool. You get a water filter. With our homes, we're mopping, we're vacuuming, we're dusting, but the air we're often not cleaning, and it's not flowing. And that's kind of the root of the whole problem here. And if you go back, and the crazy thing, so with when it comes to air, and it goes perfect with the name of your podcast, there's no new air being made. Air is finite. Air doesn't. There's no new air. The air that's in the atmosphere, that's all we got. So the air you're breathing right now, it was in China in 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, a Roman emperor was breathing it 1,000 years ago. A dinosaur was farting it 16 million years ago. It's the same air. It works through ecological system, right? It ends up in the ocean, it ends up in the trees, it goes through our bodies. So we want to keep the tree ratio strong, and we want to pollute it as little as we can. And then I was reading even recently that, when lightning happens, that actually makes the nitrogen more available. And then the whole system all kind of works together, but there's no new air being manufactured. We forget how finite it is. If you think about Earth, it's about 6 miles from sea level to where we can't breathe, to getting to the outside of the atmosphere. It's about the same amount deep. So we got about 6 miles or 10 kilometers to the bottom of the ocean and to the top. So we got this and if you go to the middle of the earth, it's like 6,000 miles. So you got this giant hot flaming rock, then this little tiny thin layer of water and a tiny thin layer of air. And we're fortunate that we're right in that spot.
So when we're talking about how most things are done indoors now and pure air, is mold the biggest problem now that you're seeing indoors for air quality?
So it depends how you define biggest. It's definitely the most popular. It's the most, because mold's scary, right? When you look at a picture of mold, if I just say like VOCs or CO2, it doesn't sound that scary. But black mold, Stachybotrys, that carries some weight. And because you can see a picture of mold, because mold can grow on surfaces. So mold, because it can be visible, a lot of the air issues, they're invisible, so you can't see them no matter what. But with mold, because it's visible, because people have smelled those musty, damp odors, they're more mold aware. And the interesting thing, a lot of people have had their health wrecked by mold toxicity in a home that never had a leak, never had any visible mold, just had airborne mold, didn't smell moldy, and they had their health destroyed. And I just tell people, allow that to be the proof that you needed to know that your air can be contaminated. Because how did the mold make you sick? You weren't eating it, you weren't drinking it, because you were breathing it.
Yes.
So the people who often have their life changed most by optimizing their air, it's people who are breathing in a lot of mold, a lot of pollen. Mold specifically, though, is a one similar to those floods and fires. It just wrecks everything. Yes. But so I would say mold is not the only issue, but it's the most popular issue. And it's hard to get mad at the mold. We're the ones who built these little Tupperware boxes everywhere. They were totally there's no mold problem outside. You don't see mold really growing on trees and growing on grass because we have nature out there. So we now created this little tight climate controlled box, and the mold's pissed off and it's just trying to survive like it's been doing for billions of years. You just kind of got in the way a little bit.
I was going to ask you, when you think about how mold infiltrates, and because it feeds off organic materials, is that right, Mike? It's feeding off the wood, and so it gets on the wood, and then the mechanism, Mike, would be that the mold is giving off spores or something of that sort, and then different types of mold give off different types of toxins.
Mold's everywhere. So that's why, and it's been tough. So I've been testing mold for, 12, 13 years. And they called it the mold rush back then. Little did they know what was going to happen afterward.
The mold rush.
A lot of contractors got into the mold game because it's wait, do I remove a piece of drywall for $1,000 or remove a piece of moldy drywall, call it remediation, and charge $15,000?
Whoa, man.
That's
really?
Essentially the difference. There's air scrubbers, there's HEPA vacuums. We take some cleaning protocols and procedures in place, but essentially it's a controlled surgical, it's demolition with precaution. That's what remediation, that's what mold is. You're isolating the contaminated area and you're removing the contaminants, you're wiping the surfaces, you're cleaning the air. But someone who's already been doing demolition and removing drywall and building homes, you're wait a second here. This is a way better business.
Yeah.
And these aren't health guys typically who are getting into the mold game. And now it's happening so quickly that functional medicine practitioners are being bombarded by, I have mold illness. So what happens? They find a lab that can test blood and test urine and test for mycotoxins and then find some mold removing supplements. So the business of mold is growing very quickly.
Yeah. So
this is good and bad. It's good because there's some more solutions coming online for people and there's more awareness. But at the same time, when you test for mold, when you get certified in testing for mold, you're not supposed to test for mold unless it's been a couple days since it's rained.
Oh.
Because your numbers are dramatically skewed from the humidity after rain. I've never met a mold testing company who actually follows that protocol. How bad would that be for your business if you booked 4 jobs on Monday, it rained on Sunday, you got to cancel them all. You still got to pay your employees. The customers aren't going to pay you to not come.
Yep.
Most people don't even know that. You technically should have all your windows shut for a day or two before. Also, whenever you test for mold, you always have to do a control sample. So you test the outdoor air and you test the indoor air. I've tested mold in the morning, in the afternoon, and the evening in the same home and seen 100x results because of the rain.
Wow.
So when it was raining, the mold spores died outside. They went to almost nothing when it was actually raining because it was washing them and bringing them to the surface. Then a few hours later, as the humidity picked up, the mold spores were off the charts. So that's why you have to test the inside, the outside. So you're supposed to be looking at the contrast of the indoor mold and the outdoor mold at the same time. If you don't, the absolute numbers mean nothing. So when someone just goes and does a mold test and it's like, my house is filled with mold, I'm like, test outside. It's also moldy. That's not a problem. The problem is outside we have filtration and air is moving, and indoors it's very stagnant. So you want a home that breathes and you want a home that filters, and then you don't typically have mold problems.
Wow. So it really is important for everyone to get the outdoor done as long as the indoor. What are the companies you like? Do you have one, like a lab test? Do you have a particular one you like, Mike?
There's various types of tests. So there's an ERMI and there's an aerosol, and who invented which ones, right? Like the insurance companies love tests that skew negative. The restoration contractors and the companies who sell supplements, they love tests that skew positive.
Yeah.
So I always tell friends, if you ever need to get out of a lease early, call me. I'll come over. I'll find the mold. And I've still never gone to a home where I couldn't find mold.
Yeah.
So it's like saying, let me find dust. If I look, I will find it. How much? What species? But like, I used to test air a lot. So, but the problem was, and like I talked to guys who charge $10,000, $20,000 and travel the world, travel the country doing testing. And that will all say within the first 10 minutes of being in the home, you know what's going on. You just spend the day there to give the data to the customer. But by the way you feel when you breathe, by the way it smells, and just looking around visually, the lab testing only confirms what you already know.
Gotcha.
So, and it's kind of funny because this is kind of why I got out of remediation and air testing. You live inside, your air is not going to be good. You use modern apps and technology and Wi-Fi or live in a city, your EMF levels aren't going to be good. So it's like, did it really make sense for that customer to pay that money for testing? Because for $3,000, you'll have a whole home air filtration figured out. Yep. For $3,000 to $5,000, you have whole home and point of use water filtration figured out. And if you really want to get crazy with the EMF, for another few $1,000s, you're hardwired. So it's like, does it make money? Does it make sense? Am I doing good work if I'm charging someone a bunch of money, giving them a diagnostic report, and now all their budget just went to a piece of paper instead of the solution? It didn't feel good, man. It did not feel good.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when you realize like the quality, like with remediation, so people out there would say, since you could find mold in every house, and it's specific to like a certain area. If there's mold outside, it's inside. Now, but when it's bad though, Mike, like what are some of the signs and symptoms you would look for? Like, let's say you go into a house and somebody says, well, what's the point? You're right. What would you say your biggest signs and symptoms, like you need to get testing or just go ahead and get your air filtration done?
So visible mold is number one. Okay. Your sense of smell, first of all. When you go pay attention to how you feel when you breathe. Mm-hmm. When you go outside and you take that first breath of air, does it feel better or worse? If you're going outside and you're like, you really desire opening your windows, getting outside, feeling fresh air. Mm-hmm. It's not that that's some magical air. That's just regular air, likely decently polluted air if you live in a city. That just means your indoor air is either moldy or stuffy or contaminated, that it feels good to go outside and get fresh air.
Yeah.
Or when you come in your home, like when I come in my home, I don't go outside for fresh air. I come inside for clean air. My first breath when I come in my home, like, the CO2 is low, the filtration is strong, but it's the same thing with water. Like if you get your water from the tap, you got to filter it out.
Yep.
So the big signs for mold should be one of two things: that the ease of breathing, the smell. If it smells, I've never been to a place where it smelled damp and musty and it wasn't mold.
Yeah.
I've never had that experience before.
Yeah.
It smells that way because there's something going on. But visible mold, looking under sinks, where If there's a lot of mold, it's because there's a water issue. It could be a roof leak, could be a toilet leak, it could be a leak of a spigot like behind a wall, it could be a sink leak, it could be water dripping behind the shower, behind the bathtubs. So there's a lot of places, but like visible mold is number one. When you see some black stuff, that's when you legitimately need to call and get 3 quotes from a restoration company to remediate it. The big issue is when people just have airborne mold. Everybody has that. That's when you need to filter. And I want to just make sure that I give some people some really good, outside of mold, just some good, obvious, free tips that people can implement like right away to get some wins at home. So when I moved to Texas from Canada a few years ago, I was shocked to find out people wear their shoes indoors here. It's normal in Austin.
Yeah.
Do you wear shoes inside? Crazy to me. So of all shoes tested, about 95% of shoes have fecal matter on them. Nice word for poop. Basically, 100% of shoes are going to have glyphosate on them. There's no way you weren't working on, even if you don't spray your own yard, everybody else does. So your shoes outside, if you're stepping on glyphosate and you're stepping on poop, and you come back home and then you're stepping on your carpets, you're bringing all those contaminants inside, and then they stay there. And then they're in your internal ecosystem. So every time you're walking, you're kicking it back up. You're kicking it back up. So just like a big one is dealing with things at the source. You know, being mindful of the cleaning and the cooking products that you're using. You know, don't use all the stuff that you can buy at the big box store that cleans your homes that has a neon color and a strong fragrance. Probably not good. No. Don't use air fresheners. Those little plug-ins, fresheners, sprays, aerosol cans, none of that stuff. Because, you know, filtering your air is great, but it's even better to deal with the source. So when you're cooking that steak, it's not like you're just breathing in the meat and the fats. There's other chemical compounds when you heat it up indoors. That's why you smell things more when you heat it up. So you want to use that vent. You want to use that range hood. And then do the tissue test. So take a tissue or a Kleenex or a paper towel and hold it up to that vent and make sure it's pulling it up. If it doesn't pull it out of your hand and hold it up, it means that vent is not pulling any air. And then you got to make sure it's venting outside. So a lot of the time, I was at those microwave ones especially, often they're just blowing above or into the counter. They're not, or they're blowing into your attic. But those vents should be running right from your range hood above your stove outside, up to your attic and outside. Otherwise, you're just venting all that particulate back into your home. Okay, Same is true for bathroom fans. So do the tissue test. Make sure your bathroom fan is actually pulling. If it can't hold the paper towel out of your hand, it's not pulling the air. And then check your attic and make sure that's venting outside, not just into your attic. A lot of people, most homes, you have the bathroom fans and they're just venting into the attic. So you're just dumping all that humidity into your attic space, and then you wonder why you have a lot of mold growing in there. Yeah. And then your HVAC system is in there, and it's not perfectly sealed, and now it's pulling that mold and distributing it throughout your home. Or you have, and if you think about it, you have a hot HVAC systems typically aren't climate controlled. So let's say it's summer in Tennessee, and you got the cool air in those vents. So you have a cold vent, and you got a hot attic. That creates condensation. So now it's drip, 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 drip. And the same happens when it's wintertime and that heat's running. You get the temperature differential and it creates condensation. You get the mold issue. So you really want to make sure the bathroom fans are working and they're venting outside. And then I would recommend using them for at least 2 hours after a shower or a bath. Just think about how much moisture you could soak up with a towel. So when you're done a shower, you have gallons of water in that towel. And if you're not venting that moisture out, it's just dumping into your home. And then that contributes to high levels of airborne mold spores and things of that nature.
I'm going to use that. I didn't know about turning that fan on. Now, with the kitchen fan, I know if you do it when you're cooking, but what would be like a general rule? I know you do it after cooking. Like, do you hold it like for so long after you cook?
You could stop when you're done cooking, but and you know, the noise is often a big issue for people. They don't make those things quiet. So yeah, if you're making bacon or steak and you're using a high speed grate, but if you're just cooking something, you know, even stir frying vegetables or something, making some eggs, still use the lowest fan speed. we're not optimizing for perfection here. We want to do the things that aren't super inconvenient that still move the needle forward.
Well, yeah,
So at least
good.
have it on fan speed 1 or fan speed 2. If it's a beautiful day, open your windows when you cook. Something that I've been doing with my kids lately is we got this little camping grill and we just go to the park and we cook dinner at the park.
Yeah.
And then more families started to do it. Now it's like a thing. Anytime that weather allows you to cook outside, like I still haven't looked this up, but when did us humans invent the word indoors anyways? Imagine trying to explain the concept of inside or outside like 1,000 years ago. It's like, wait, we built these airtight boxes where we spend 99% of our time. I'm like, we literally created these confined environments and then we started cooking in them.
Yeah.
Like, this is not ideal, guys. And gas grills at that.
Gas grills. And it's amazing that you look at other cultures. And my mom's from Korea, Mike, and they would definitely have like, kilns, and they'd have these things where you cook and it's in this separate area, where it's all outdoor, like a little bit of a covering, but everything else was pretty much outdoors. Yeah.
The original structure was like roof over your head, keep the rain off. Then it was like, maybe keep the predators out, maybe keep the bugs out, keep your stuff dry and safe. And then we just really got carried away with it and built these super climate control. We love to be comfortable. Like, we're like, we want to have the temperature 70 degrees, no matter what the weather is. We want to be perfectly comfortable at all times. And then honestly, we're going to be shooting a video about this. You just reminded me today. So I'm renting this home and there was an HVAC leak. HVAC guys come. When they were done their work, I looked behind there and there was a little bit of mold growing around the HVAC system. The HVAC guys, the same way that doctors are not educated on nutrition, the HVAC industry has no education around air quality and mold. So the very people who are building the ventilation systems in homes know nothing about air. So they're there dealing with your HVAC system and there's a bunch of mold on the wall. They don't even see that mold. That wasn't even registering to them. See you later. They don't even think to be like, hey, you might want to get that mold taken care of. Filter technology. So the most important thing is a HEPA filter. That takes care of physical particles, things that you could see under a microscope. So think mold spores, pollen, dust mites, bacteria, any kind of physical particles, insect parts, rubber from tires, all that. Then the carbon filter, that's designed to absorb odors and gases. Then they work in tandem. The real magic sauce is not about what the filter's made out of. It's how big is the filter.
Oh, okay.
So if you think about like in a vehicle, like what makes a car, increase towing capacity, it's a bigger engine. You can't get like a Honda Civic that can pull like a boat or a trailer. Like physics just don't allow for that. You need a truck.
Yeah.
So most little air purifiers, because they're so small, they don't move enough air.
Yeah.
So what's important is the volume of air that you move. That's why Jasper is quite large in size. So Jasper's filter weighs 4.5 pounds. Most other air purifiers, their filters weigh about 0.5 pound. So that's 9 times the weight and the density. So that's why it can last 6 months properly and not get you. That's why you don't have to vacuum it and clean it. And also, like, you should never clean a filter, because if you vacuum the HEPA and then you look at that filter under a microscope, the vacuum's pulled the pleats apart. You've destroyed the defenses. Now particles can flow right through it. You vacuum off the dust. It looks nice and clean now. Go look at that filter under a microscope and see what damage you've done to it.
So you got to get rid of it. You just got to like chuck it and get a new one then.
Yeah, same with the oil filter in your car, the air filter in your car. You don't clean those filters. You got to replace them or they wouldn't function properly anymore. So there's a lot of gimmicky science in the last several years. UV lights, hydroxyl radicals, ionizers, all this stuff. It's like, if that stuff was effective, surgical operating rooms, the space station, like the places where they have the highest degree of filtration possible, they all are using HEPA. So it's really, entrepreneurs love to have new things to sell people.
Yeah.
And UV lights are great. They are great for water. But UV needs a certain amount of contact exposure time. So, if you wash your hands for 1 second, your hands might smell clean, but they're not clean. You got to wash 15, 20 seconds, really scrub them, because the soap needs enough contact time with the bacteria to do something.
Yep.
In an air filter, if the air is passing through so quickly, it had no time to be exposed to the UV light. You can't just get a UV light, wave it over in 1 second and everything's clean. You have to hold it there for a little bit. So, but it was such a, they see the blue light and it looks cool. And in the ad, you can show pictures of it destroying particles. But like, I had this air debate with a guy recently about ionizers and UV. And I'm like, why can't you guys just publish one study? Like all of our studies, I don't know if you've ever seen our mold study, but we filled a room, 500 square foot room with mold at a third-party lab. The study's on our site. Then they turn on the Jasper, and then they test the room an hour later, and there's 97.1% less mold. Air scrubbing, that's how we clean mold after remediation. I was like, how come you guys just don't do the same study with your UV light? He's like, yeah, like we don't really have a budget for that. And like, there's just all this stuff. I'm like, anytime that you see non-real world studies, who cares if you can take your filter out, put it in a little controlled box and get some numbers? What matters is, can you put it in a room, the whole machine, and actually bring the particles down and actually clean the air and actually make the people in the room feel better? If not, I don't care about your stats.
That's right. That's right. And when you created the Jasper and you started seeing such great results, did you start getting like testimonials when you started to put that out there? Because I do love your device. I've had some different air filters in my home, and I will tell everybody out there, the Jasper, it is so true about the filter and how strong it is. I was surprised, Mike, how like thick it was. So I was really, really impressed with it. It doesn't put out a lot of noise at all. But are you getting like testimonials about people how it's affecting their overall health?
Dude. So I made the Jasper originally. I didn't tell you this part. I originally never thought we were going to sell it like broadly. I made it just for wildfire smoke. So I figured instead of going to disaster zones after fires, I saw the problems people were having. So in between disasters, I was going to Thailand. I was going to Costa Rica. I was basically traveling in my 20s, and then disaster would strike and I'd go there. And then after the flood or the fire, I'd go back to Thailand or Switzerland or Costa Rica. I was mostly going to Thailand. And the vision was, let's create an air scrubber that's beautiful. So when there's like a flood, like if you looked right now for a dehumidifier on Craigslist or something, like a commercial grade one, let's say they're $1,000 retail. You could find old used dehumidifiers for like $300-$400 right now. When the flood happens, they're $4,000. No one, when the power outage happens, generators are worth 10 times more. When fires happen, every big store is sold out of air scrubbers, air filters immediately. They're gone. Everybody runs to the storage. Like when there's a heat wave, you can't, you go into Home Depot and there's all the air conditioners in the front and then they're sold out really quickly. Of course, that's what happens. So the whole idea was, when there's a big wildfire, let's go to the wildfire zone, bring thousands of filters with us, educate the people, and sell air filters. That was the business. So it's like, let's create the world's first air purifier, air scrubber designed for wildfire smoke.
Oh.
We're getting ready to launch summer of 2020. COVID happens first. So we ended up launching the company as Jasper Medical, and our first 1,000 customers were all doctors and dentists who use them to safely reopen their practices. And then the hygienists refused to not. So dentists, by the way, most people don't know this. Dentists and dental hygienists are both on the top 5 list from the Department of Labor of the most dangerous jobs in America. More than firefighter, police, mine worker, dentists, and hygienists. Why? The why is because the dirtiest part of the human body is the mouth and the butt. And they're literally opening people's mouths wide and blasting high velocity air and water under your gum line. So when you test the air, and there's so many studies, when you test the air quality in a dental office and you sample it, we have saliva, we have tooth particulate, we have blood, everything. And it's just, the air is filled with it. And it's crazy because they actually teach this to dentists in school. It's called bioaerosols, biological aerosols. They teach them about that. And still 90% of dentists don't filter their air. So in Canada, where I was living at the time, in Ontario, they mandated, it was the law. In order to open your dental office, you had to have a high capacity air scrubber, air filter in every room. And based on based on the amount of volume that the air filter would move would be how many times between patients. So for a dentist perspective, it was going to pay for itself in 2 days.
Yes.
So the dentist bought them like crazy. They wanted something that looked good, that made their patients feel safe. Well, guess what? You know how it goes red, yellow, green based on the air quality?
Yep.
In a dental office, it goes yellow after every patient. It's always yellow. So when they were having some issues and the hygienists would refuse to work, they're like, dude, they would tell the guy who owns the office, like, I'm not working without a Jasper in my operatory. And it was COVID, air awareness was high. So they were using Jasper as a part of their marketing approach to new patients. So patients would come in and they're like, the air in our dental office is cleaner than your bedroom. We got Jaspers here. And then, mom's been there now a couple times. She's like, hey, those Jaspers, my kid has asthma. Would this help my son's asthma? Would this help his allergies? And the dentist was like, I don't know, call Jasper. So we had no e-commerce, by the way. The only way you could buy a Jasper the first 2 years was you would go to our website, request a free consultation, and talk to me for an hour. And I would talk to you about your mold, about your situation. So I deeply connected with the first 1,000 customers. And then it's crazy. So I'm in Austin. Cedar fever is a thing here. Allergies are pretty bad for a lot of people. And that can really wreak havoc on the quality of people's lives. And a lot of people, they just have general health stuff. Their energy level's low. They got brain fog. They got autoimmune, all the gut stuff, the whole gamut. And then they go on a vacation and they feel great. They go to Costa Rica. They do a little yoga in Nosara. They're feeling good. They come back home. They're sick again. They're like, is my home making me sick? They have this moment. And yeah, it very well could be. So what's happening with people is instead of sleeping in a clean air sanctuary where you're healing and recovering deeply, your body's playing defense all night long. So it's not that the Jasper is the magic pill itself, but when you all of a sudden put it in your room and now you're breathing 99, 98% cleaner air, you're not breathing the mold, you're not breathing the pollen, you're not breathing the VOCs, your body's like, I can rest now, I can recover, I can heal. So some people's seasonal allergies are gone overnight. The biggest one though, the one that makes my heart sing is, well, actually my sister's an example of it. But this story keeps happening now. So husband, it's typically the guy's snoring. It's a big problem. Next thing you know, they're not sharing a bedroom anymore. Yep. It's too annoying. You just can't. And then they put a Jasper in their house, in their bedroom. Snoring's gone. Now they're sharing a room again. So to me, the snoring one has been number one. Oh, yeah. We did a sleep study last year. We gave 150 people Jaspers who were tracking their sleep quality with Aura. And everybody put their name right on the study. It was all super transparent. And the average person slept 25 minutes more per night and 18% more deep sleep on their Aura ring. So, and it just makes sense. It's like, if you go from tap water to filtered water and you just measure everything, it all gets better. If you go from dirty tap air to filtered air, everything gets better. But to me, it's the asthma attacks, it's the allergies, it's the sleep, it's the energy. They've done studies on chest moves, SAT scores, fertility rates, like anything you can think of. Add the word air quality and study to the end, and there's just an infinite amount of people who have researched this before. We just haven't made it practical yet.
And it's just so mind-boggling that air quality, the health of your lungs would translate into the health of the whole system, the whole body. And you're seeing this with your studies. With that, I saw that you guys were doing something where you're working to help with all the healthiest schools in America, I believe. Is that something you guys were doing? It was like a program?
Yes, sir. It's public now too.
What's that program about? This is great.
So it's called Kindling Academy. Kindling.academy. So recently in our neighborhood, and we tried so I have 2 daughters, 5 and 3, and we just had a son a few weeks ago. And we were trying hard to find the right school for them. It was either great and outdoor and community, but and I like a little nature hippie, but it would take it too far to the point where like they weren't teaching them anything. And then we had the other side of the spectrum where it's like academically rigorous, but they're inside all the time and they're on screens. And I'm like, can't we just have trees and learn to read and play with friends outside? Like, is this too much to ask? And they would have the air fresheners and the plugins and unfiltered water. And I had to pull my daughter out of her school when she was 2.5. We put her in school, man, and she was just coming home sick all the time. Congested, runny nose, boogers. I'm like, what's going on here? The doctor, I start looking online. I'm like, this is normal. Your kid's supposed to be sick all the time, chronically sick for the first several years. I'm like, this doesn't feel right to me. I don't believe this. So I was like, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we put a Jasper? They own 3 schools. I said, let's put a Jasper in 50% of the classrooms. We'll donate them. And let's track the absenteeism across all the classes. And they ghosted me. So they didn't want the free. I don't know what they didn't want to expose. I don't know what they were thinking, but they weren't interested. I'm like, then we're out of here. So we found another school. I put the Jasper in. Arya stopped getting sick. They actually ended up putting 5 more in. And then a study came out of Finland last year, 2024. They put air purifiers in half the classes across like a bunch of different schools, and the absenteeism dropped by over 30% in teachers and students right away. So,
oh my goodness.
It's like all you had to do was clean the air, because out of all the kids spreading stuff, a lot of it's coughs and colds and sneezes and this and that. And, they can wipe all the surfaces at the end of the day, but the schools are designed to be energy efficient. So they're trapping everything that the kids are all breathing in. So of course they're getting sick. And when I saw that study from Finland, and then a friend of mine said, hey, did you know the school in the neighborhood just went up for sale? Pocket listing. I'm like, what? And based on where the land is, man, it's like 1.5 acres of prime real estate with beautiful trees. There's no way someone could keep a school there. Like, certainly they're going to buy that land, knock the school down, and build some plaza or like 5 homes or something. And I'm like, this community needs this school. Yeah. And me and my wife have been working on education curriculum since I met her 16 years ago. And I'm like, you know what? Like, this is time. So as of last week, we purchased the school in our neighborhood. And when I say we, I mean Jasper. We're like, after we saw that study come out of Finland, we're like, let's put our money where our mouth is. What happens if we take a school and we put in air filtration in every class? We put in whole building water filtration. And when we inspected the school, man, where the kids were going to the bathroom, there was 3 toilets in one small little room with no ventilation. None.
Sheesh.
Yeah, none.
Heavens.
And I filmed this all. And I'm like, and this wasn't like, they've never got their ducts cleaned. The HVAC system was heavily contaminated. The carpets were gross. And this is not, the Glade plugins, the air fresheners. And they had some air purifiers in there off. All of them were off. I'm like, why are they off? She's like, honestly, I just bought them for peace of mind for the parents during COVID. I'm like, what?
Get them things running the whole time. Yeah.
So, I'm like, you know what? Like, we got to figure this out. And I love that Charlie Munger quote, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcomes. Yeah. So the education system in America is heavily financially motivated. So here's what we're going to do. Filtered air, filtered water, circadian rhythm lighting that matches the sun throughout the day. The only screens we're going to have is screened-in porches. So we're going to have huge screened-in porches that surround the entire school. The outdoor areas were already beautiful, but we're going to have outdoor classrooms, screened-in porches, clean air, clean water, no toxic products, no toxic chemicals. We got an organic chef who gets everything sourced locally and cooks. And then this is where it gets really fun. We're going to have a program where when you pick up your kid, you can also bring home dinner for your family. Because it's really hard for families to cook that food. It's like 2:00. Next thing you know, you're picking up your kid, you're frantically cooking, then you're cleaning, they're in bed. You're like, where did 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. go? Yeah. So you'll have meal prep for the families. We got picnic tables there under the trees. And then the most fun is we have a 20-person sauna and a cold plunge. So when you drop off your kids or pick them up, if you want to come a little early or stay a little late, that's how you can connect with the other families. I don't know if you can't see it from right here, but you can on the camera, sort of. That's
Yeah,
a 20.
I'm
That's
looking
a
at all the side
20-person
camera.
sauna back there
That's amazing, man.
on a trailer.
You guys came up with so they could stay there or come a little early, drop them off, and do those things. That is an amazing idea. Seriously.
Well, you know, you have friendship automatically baked in when you're a kid in school. You're in school, you're with kids, you got friends. And then when you're out of school, the last chance you have to make lifelong friends is when your kids are young and there's the parents of the, and like, it's the only people you could really have good, if you want to hang out with your kids and your friends, you better be friends with your kids' parents. And if the school is run as a prison with a fence around it, with no community events and no camping trip and nothing to put it together, how's that going to happen? So my friend UJ, he told me back in India, he's in Canada now. He said back in India, when they applied to a school, they put his mom and dad in 2 separate rooms, and the parents had to do a value alignment test. They're like, before we even talk about your kid, let's just make sure the parents are aligned on values, because we're not just accepting the kid into the school, we're accepting the family into the school.
Yeah.
So we're really going to take the community very serious.
Wow.
And we're going to benchmark all of our statistics, not just the academic stuff, but what's our absenteeism rate? Because in Texas, and I know a lot of states work this way, they get funded based on attendance. So imagine if we can drop absenteeism by 30%, it now becomes financially obvious for the public school systems to invest in a healthier environment too. So the whole purpose of Kindling Academy, and why is it kindling? Because if you have a big log and no kindling, you never get a fire. So kindling, we start the fire. So we're not going to franchise. We're not going to license. We're open sourcing everything we do. The materials we use, the renovations we do, the materials, the curriculum, what we do for air, for water, the pricing, the sourcing, all of it. And then every teacher is also going to have Jaspers at home in their bedroom. And when every kid signs up for a school, they get a Jasper for the child's bedroom. And the filter every 6 months is just baked into their tuition, because that way now that kid's going to be at school breathing clean air, drinking filter water all day. And now we're going to extend that to their home life as well. So now they're going to be sleeping and recovering in a clean environment, and we're not going to charge anything extra for it. And I'm very bullish that we're going to get dramatic wins for people and there's nothing cooler than setting the new standard. So now all of a sudden the other schools are going to look silly for not adhering to that standard. And instead of being competitive advantage, it's like, here's everything we did. Here's how much we charge. Here's how much we pay our teachers. The teachers are making like 40 grand now at these schools. The teachers got to make at least 70K.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want,
that's too little.
So all the stuff that my inner child wishes I had as a kid, this is the beautiful thing about business, is when you get to have an idea and make it reality. Yeah. So here we are, Kindling Academy. And when you get, or when that opens and you have these processes, let me know, and I would love to put it on my stories and reels. And I know that's we'll tell you everything.
Just
and like, let's say you're in Austin for an event, you can come by the school. We can do a live podcast. We can do a fireside chat. The school is going to really be a hub of the community.
This is really warms my heart, this idea and this like conglomerate. I mean, this is really great, and I love that you involve the parents. You could send them home if they want with a meal,
or eat it there.
Truly, like you're helping a whole set of families that doesn't have to fight with chronic anxiety and frustration. So, man, this is really great. I really want to come down. I would love to come down and see it. So whenever we look into getting a filtration for every single home, you look at the signs and symptoms of mold. You want to clean your air, keep all the vents open. With Jasper, I know you really are focusing on the air, but do you ever see Jasper like going into any types of purification, or are you just sticking with
no
air?
way? No way. We won't make a smaller machine. We won't make a water product. We won't make a diffuser. It is hard enough to make one amazing product.
Yeah.
And people who have been customers of Jasper, we're on our 5th filter. So every time you get a new filter, they're going to keep getting better and better and better. So we're going to keep innovating on the filter. And, Jasper has a lifetime warranty. So we'll never get away from that steel cylinder. It's a timeless design. So as we make upgrades in the future, we'll send you a new screen. We'll send you an improved filter. We'll give you better sensors. It's designed to be completely recyclable and upgradable. There's a lot of companies who make water filters, but like when a company is often trying to make the new product, the bigger one, a blue one, a black one, a green one, all these different things to grow their business, I'm like, if you just, there's a big world out there. If you could just make one great product, then you can spend the rest of your time educating. You know,
Yeah,
if we
that's
were
right.
working on a water filter, we wouldn't be creating a school. We wouldn't be able to host. We're hosting an event here July 12th in Austin. So when somebody in Austin buys a Jasper, we hand deliver all of them. We're really passionate about creating manufacturing here in Texas, and teaching other people how to make stuff. So I'm really focused on building great community and building a great company more than just making new products all the time. So no, we're going to stay in our lane, keep educating. I would love to build a model. So the purpose with kindling, if you can make the incentives work, it would be really beautiful if A, public schools start investing in clean air, and B, we're trying to get better and better at ways where we can give businesses Jaspers for free to give customers. So let's say next week we're going to Miami. There's a hospital. I'll give them a shout out. There's a hotel called the Carillon Wellness Hotel, a great wellness hotel in Miami. There's going to be a Jasper in every single room.
Wow. So there's
every room and every massage room, every wellness area. We're Jasperizing, turning the entire building into a clean air hotel. Because it's bullshit that you go on a trip either with your family to have a vacation or for business to speak or go to a conference, and you sleep in a moldy VOC filled hotel room and you get sick. It only takes one bad night to be sick for a week. So
it's called the Carillon.
Carillon, Carillon, Carillon Hotel. And I'm like,
changing the world, man. This is
once
great.
people go there, and we're not even selling the Jaspers to the hotel. We're giving it to a bunch of their staff. We're giving it to the hotel too. So now when guests go there, use fan speed 2 or 3 on dark mode, they have the best sleep of their life. And then they're like, I want this thing at home. So it's this beautiful ecosystem where some customers buy them, and then we can place units, whether it's schools or wellness businesses or a church or whatever, go to these different places, because there's nothing worse than like, you tell someone to buy your product, like buy it, get a money back guarantee. And you know that company is going to make you jump through hoops. Yeah. So what's the best is if you can actually give them your product first, let them feel the win, first get the win, and then buy the Jasper. So by the way, if anybody lives in Austin, we haven't rolled this out more and more yet, but we actually do 30-day Jasper trials in your home. So we come to your home, we set up the Jaspers, we test the air, no credit card, no contracts, nothing like that. And then we'll come back after a month and pick it up. If your life has been changed and you want to keep them, we give you a link to purchase them. If not, we pick them up. So we're flipping the money back guarantee on its head and saying, no, you try Jasper first for a month. Let us prove it to you instead of you prove it to us. And like, the more, you can't do these things if you're making new products all the time. So once you have one product that actually works incredible, you just got to get it out there.
That's amazing. I'm just truly grateful that you're changing the world. Like, you're going to do the Carillon, you're doing the school, you're doing all these avenues because you really believe what you're creating. And I love that. When you're passionate, you can tell in your voice that this is something that you believe and trust in. And it's really important to me with clean air. And I don't just say that lightly, is because I noticed even when I was younger, my teenage years and into my 20s, I would get so sensitive to like the smell of asphalt or the smell of certain types of pollen. And I remember, like, I'd go to my grandmother's house, and I'm telling you, I would smell like sort of like a musty. I'd go downstairs and my lungs would feel kind of tight. And then I would go to, and finally I went to like one of my friend's house, and they had like filtration. And I remember that I actually felt good in my chest. I was like, wow, that's actually something legit right there. And I just want everybody out there to know this. So when we're talking about health, to put like my spin in Chinese medicine, I'm just saying one of the biggest keys they say is to create lifeblood, and lifeblood's within the lungs in Chinese medicine. It creates like the connection between body and, they say, spirit. So air is, people just think it's food, and water is like, air is one of the biggest things that you have to address. Now with this, you're changing the world, Mike. Where do you see the future of Jasper? Like, you're going to keep going steady, of course, and you keep rolling. You're going to just keep expanding. Do you see these hotels and these type of schools growing and growing, like you said, like you're going to influence to where other places are going to follow suit?
Yeah, and I think it's all about setting the standard high. So I'm hoping that we see more air filtration companies start popping up on board that are making better products. I really want to influence architects, designers, builders, and developers to build better homes,
Mm-hmm.
because when you're building a better home from scratch, you can actually do it quite well. The HVAC system is the lungs of your home, but it's the last thing that they consider. They're just banging tin and hooking it up to a furnace and calling it a day.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are thoughtful when you build a home, you can build an amazing home that's pollen proof, that's smoke proof, that will never have mold, that lets air flow through it like the river currents, that filters your air, that's energy efficient. You can really have it all. We just haven't really these companies, these HVAC companies are all multi-billion-dollar companies, and none of them have innovated in decades. They're all like, if none of us innovate, none of us have to innovate. So where we're going to go is at the end of the decade, we're going to go deeply into HVAC. We're going to make furnaces. We're going to make air conditioners. We're going to make, but designed for air quality at the core. So instead of you buying this furnace, this AC, and hacking together an air system, it's going to be a cohesive air system that does heating, cooling, humidity, filtration. It monitors the outdoor air. So if it's a bad pollen day, it'll be like recirculate mode in your car. If it's wildfire smoke mode, it's going to tighten up, scrub the air harder, no smoke's coming in. If the air quality is good that day, it's going to flow through your home. So our whole thing will be more into developing better homes and better HVAC systems. But I'm like, you can't just start a furnace company. You can't just you really have to build trust. But think about it. The most expensive thing that most people own by far is their home. Yeah. The most expensive thing in that home is their HVAC system. And 99% of people can't even tell you what brand is on their furnace.
No.
So we will be the first HVAC company who comes out with 25-year warranties, with filters that come every 3 months. When it's wildfire season in California, your heavy duty carbon filter is going to come. So really, we're an air company. We're going to be here for decades. We're just mastering this one product now, going deep, learning about air, getting better at logistics and products and manufacturing. But then we're going to move deeply into HVAC. And where that gets really exciting, the HVAC industry, we have hundreds of thousands of guys that are trained right now in America. They're in homes all day, every day, wanting to grow businesses, selling stuff. They have the skills. So I am excited to train the HVAC industry. So when you become a Jasper certified HVAC dealer, you will come to our headquarters. We will train you on air quality for a week. So instead of just having the guy come in, it's a heat wave, my AC broke. When that guy comes out, he's going to assess how's the air in the baby's room. What I used to charge $2,000 for, it's worth it for him to do for free because, your ventilation's bad. Did you know we can add a vent here? Did you know you have a mold issue there? We already have an HVAC industry. It'd be like if somebody could train all the doctors about nutrition, what would happen? If we could change the incentives. So with the HVAC industry, the incentives are already there. They want to sell products. They just don't know about air. So like Jasper is not an air scrubber company. We're an air education company who occasionally makes great products. But our main focus is just raising air awareness and let everything else figure itself out.
Oh my goodness, man! This has been good. I didn't know. I love your vision and your journey to create
love what I do.
This company. I can tell you
this is my job. This is my job.
I can tell the passion's there, and I am on it. When you come out with that unit, I'm
you'll know all about it. I promise.
First in line. This is amazing, and I am truly really impressed. And I like to talk more about air quality as time goes on. So I'm going to have you back on the podcast.
We can talk about microplastics in the future. We're doing a lot of studies. And if you ever have things that you want to dig into, whether that's microplastics in the air or studies or trials, we're always here to fund novel research and just bring it all forward. So if you ever have ideas or things that you want to check out or patients that you are like, hey, let me give Jaspers to X percentage of my patients and test their blood work or whatever comes up, just like we're always here for that kind of stuff.
Oh, I could help you with that. Even that, I have a couple ideas, but yes, this is awesome, man. Truly, I'd love to talk about microplastics. And there's a couple other things that when we talk about, when you said oral health and how it, I want to talk about that. I know I need to dig deeper. I don't know the verbiage or the terminology when we talk about oral or fecal fumes when people have it. And I've heard that people's skin can give that off as well. So I know it's another conversation for another time, but I'd love to dig into that as well. Okay. So Jasper.co, right? Okay. How do people find you, my man?
So the way to find us is, we are on Instagram. We do post a lot there. Our website is jasper.co, JASPR.co. So there's no M because it's not a com, and there's no E. JASPR, 5 letters.co. And also, like I told you, man, we're not on Amazon. We're not at Best Buy. We're not at Walmart. We're not at Home Depot. Because if you go to those stores, there's going to be a person there who knows nothing about air. And if you have a product, there's going to be another person who knows nothing about air. And the quality of service is going to suck. So we're okay to be a much smaller business who works directly with our customers. We don't have a sales or a customer support department. We only have people who are trained on air quality, who have been to thousands of homes. And we just, whether someone's a customer or not, they can reach out and ask us about mold and ask us about air, and we're here to help. So when I love to go on a podcast, especially when there's like a health conscious, health educated audience already. So this episode today is July 1st, first day of July. So between July 1st and July 7th, we'll keep the number nice, 77, code Motley. We're going to do $400 off.
Oh, my goodness.
I'll just be honest. This is the Black Friday offer that we would do at the end of the year. But last year at Black Friday, we got sold out. We were back ordered 3 months.
What?
So now we're like, hey, if we're going to go on a podcast that, and we can educate some folks and give you guys direct access to the Black Friday offer now. So between July 1st today and July 7th, code Motley is $400 off. That's bigger than any deal. We won't have any deals anywhere else at that time. And then after July 7th, the code is still going to be $200 off forever. So if for any reason it's like, this is not the week, but if anybody is like, yo, I do want to try to invest in clean air, and I will tell people this, it's really important. If you really want to clean your air and you cannot afford this, I would suggest looking into DIY air purification, because for about $100 and a few parts from Home Depot, it's going to be a little bit annoying to build, take you a few hours. You will clean the air way better than any $200, $300, $400 air purifier you see at the store. Wow. So DIY air purifiers are really good. If you Google Corsi Rosenthal box, no matter how you spell it, it will work. You'll see really good DIY protocols. The downside is, they're a little ugly. They're loud. They don't sense the air quality in real time. But you know what they do? They do clean air. So Jasper, our job is to educate. And we're here for people who are like, they want something that's beautiful. They want something that has no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no EMF, good service, cleans a lot of air. That's who we're here for. But I never want people to feel like clean air is inaccessible or get hustled by a cheap little plastic box of empty promises. So anyone out there who does want to try Jasper, today's July 1 till July 7th, code Motley is $400 off. It brings it from $11.99 to $7.99. And I hope you guys, if anybody has follow-up questions that we didn't cover today, just hit us up on Instagram, email us. We're here to serve.
I'll say I'm so thankful. Yes, when you use this code, remember, guys, this is a company I fully endorse, and I have one at my house, and it works fantastic. And the one thing I do love about is your transparency, and you don't hide anything back on your website about how you guys do things, how you guys operate. So, guys, a company full transparency does what it says, and please use code Motley to get the $400 off. This is a great opportunity. So, Mike, man, thanks so much. I'll talk to my producer, and let's talk about some microplastics, because that's a huge thing, and about like getting in the body through the air.
You breathe a lot more microplastics than you do drink.
Is that? See, I don't know. I've wondered about that.
So there's your teaser for next time, everybody.
Okay, Christy, remember to write that down. We're going to talk about this because this is a big deal, in my opinion, like this microplastic. Okay.
All right. Great, man.
Thanks, Mike, so much. Everybody from here at the Ancient Health Podcast, take it easy. Thank you so much.